Is that a quick one, Stephen? Right under the bus, as I like to say.
Hello and welcome on to our end of season review of Andor here on MBE. We'd just like to thank you once again for joining us here on our YouTube channel. Of course, our Twitch stream. I'm one of your co-hosts, Stephen John McLaughlin, our co-host, and the man at the wheel for this review is John C. Walsh. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great, Stephen.
Fine and dandy, like sour candy.
I just thought out doing that.
John, it's normally myself that does that, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, we obviously, we've covered the watch along. 12 episodes, 3 months investment into this Star Wars series. I'm sure we'll get into everything about this in the next half hour, or however long it's going to last. But I'm going to pass it over to you now. If
we're doing it right, it will last a half hour, if not less.
It should be succinct, but we'll see. It's us. It's us.
Succinct about what we do, Stephen.
What is it? Tangents aside.
I digress.
I digress, yeah. That was the saying of the day. But yeah, I mean, we've just finished episode 12 last night, John. It went out today. Getting good feedback from the community, great comments. I know you've answered some of the comments in regard to episode 12, but we're going all the way back to episode 1 from 3 months ago
when we was fab.
And I hope you've got a good memory for that, John. But I'm going to pass it over to you now, and you can take us through this review experience.
Yeah, well, Stephen, but we'll get into the first 3 episodes. But where I want to start this is just the general foundation for this show. Obviously, Rogue One, Tony Gilroy, Gareth Edwards, the concept of many spies dying to retrieve these plans for the Death Star, all ripped out of a tiny little section of the original screen crawl from A New Hope.
Yep.
Star Wars, as it was called in 1977. That was the concept for Rogue One, which then buffed the likes of Jyn Erso, Cassian Andor, Bodhi, I think it was.
Yep.
I'm forgetting the other 2 brilliant characters. The Force is with us.
I always forget their names.
Yeah, I'm talking about. I've even blanked on the fucking little mantra they were saying. I am one with the Force is with me, or something like that. Why have I blanked on those names? Doesn't matter. It buffed those characters. It buffed this concept, Steve, never seen before in Star Wars.
No.
Of a gritty underbelly within the good guys side of things. Star Wars, as great as it is, and it is great, some of the greatest stuff ever put to the silver screen. For me, the first 2 movies, the third one, very good, but not on their level. It was very black and white. It was very space operatic.
Yep.
Farm boy becomes a hero. Wily old wizard, sort of smuggler, the sort of goofball companions. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz meets fucking space. It was very black and white, Stephen. We didn't have the sort of ambiguity within these levels, and moral ambiguity. It was evil and good.
John,
we explored that in Rogue One. There was levels to good.
We've seen that in recent times with World War II films, World War One as well, if you want, the Great War, where you're getting the likes of the Battle of Britain, those kind of films, the big sort of epic ones, good versus evil, that type of thing. But now we're sort of branching out into the more human story. We got the Churchill one with Gary Oldman a few years ago. We got obviously Dunkirk as well.
Yep.
1917, another fantastic movie. What was the German one that's just out on Netflix, John, from the World War?
Quiet in the Western Front.
That as well, which I still to see. I'm going to watch it this weekend.
I've heard it's great.
But that's what I think when I think of Star Wars, and I think of Star Wars TV series, especially Andor. It has a lot of World War II references and obviously inspiration there from Tony Gilroy. We knew that from Rogue One. We knew that his fascination with World War II as well, and you saw that in Rogue One. You saw a lot of echoes in there, and it's no different to this series, although it is obviously expanded out more.
Well, we've seen it in Ferrix on the final episode. Instead of the brown shirts, Hitler sort of thugs who used to go around and keep order by threatening violence and death. In this, it's the black shirts. They've got the black suits on. Very reminiscent of the Third Reich, the rise of the Third Reich, the sort of tyranny, the terror, the clinical nature they ruled with. There was no sort of dissenting voices. And you had the odd brave person who would come out, like Sir Sophie Shaw, springs to mind, the White Rose, young 20-something girl, guillotined, but get the message out about what was happening in the Eastern Front in World War II. This is almost what Andor's like. It's almost what the likes of you, Deirdre's are doing in there. Not Deirdre, what's her name? The Yorkshire, rough and ready. Vel, what they are doing The likes of your Karis, Stephen.
Yeah.
The young guy who gets obviously paralysed and then dies early doors. I think it's the Aldani episode.
Yeah.
They're almost like the brave young few who are taking on the might of the Empire before it's cool.
Yeah.
Before it becomes a rebel alliance. So you're absolutely right, Stephen. That's something I've enjoyed. An exploration of a darker side and heavy influence of obviously the Nazis, World War II, real gritty war settings.
Yeah.
Only 70 years
back.
And we're getting that in Star Wars. There was not enough fucking wars in Star Wars for a long time. It was all... And it was fucking great. I love Star Wars, man. I'm a huge fan. I've loved it since I was a little guy in the mid-90s. But it was all very mystical and lightsaber battles, and that's fucking cool. But sometimes you need something a bit different.
You need the human element.
You need the human element. Yeah. And look, you can connect with Luke Skywalker. His story's universal. You can connect with Leia. You can connect with Han. But sometimes you need a little man who does... What was it we says? An ordinary man doing extraordinary things and an ordinary woman doing extraordinary things. And that's what this show represents for me. So I just wanted to touch on that, Stephen, as an initial sort of start to this review. The Rogue One movie, for me, still the best Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Disney have bestowed to the world, have gifted us, if you like, amongst a sort of sea of turds, plural. And just how that's buffed this show. Tony Gilroy being the one constant, he comes in, he saves the day, and then he expands it out with an unlikely hero, Stephen. A lot of people have seen the criticism, and we can maybe get into that before we actually touch on the show as well. The lack of exposure this show seemingly has in comparison to the likes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Mandalorian, hugely popular, multi-demographic story, character. Little kids can get on board with Grogu, adults can get on board. This is more mature, Stephen. Not as much exposure. It deserves all the exposure in the world. For me, it's the best Star Wars show produced. It's much better, much more complex, much more dense than The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian's fucking brilliant. Ludwig Göransson's score gets you going. But this is another level. It's a different kind of story.
It's different, John.
And Gilroy's the only man who could produce it.
It's also a lot braver than anything we've seen so far from the web series stuff in The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett. This is the one where they've separated themselves from the Jedi storyline. Not mentioned that word once in this series.
I did.
They've not even
applied
it anywhere. It's not needed. It's not needed because this is a more human story. And you're absolutely right. This is what I love about this series as well. It gives the depth and more sort of character development to the characters we'd know in Rogue One, but also the struggle before Rogue One. And as you said, all these different sort of separate rebellions. We talked about it before we came on air, John.
Yeah, something to get into,
how that's going to come together. I think you're absolutely right, John. I think Cassian Andor might be the one when he tells Luthen what he'd been through at that prison, and the word gets out of what the Empire are really doing. It's going to change a lot of people's minds and their opinion on the Empire.
But when you think of what they were doing, Stephen, multiple levels, hundreds upon hundreds of men, replicated throughout different working facilities, working day and night, constant, making these things. That obviously speaks of a huge sort of mobilisation of some kind. We then get the reveal at the end of this show that it is indeed for the Death Star. It's the sort of... I don't even know what the actual part of the Death Star is called.
Like
it's a sort of weapons.
It's like the dish, isn't it? The satellite dish part of it.
It's the part that obviously powers up the laser.
Yeah.
We get that reveal. We know of that because we're obviously huge Star Wars fans. We're outside of this galaxy, lived in. They don't actually know of the Death Star yet. The only people who know will be the likes of Tarkin, Sheev Palpatine, Vader, the upper echelons
probably
of
Krennic as well.
Krennic,
but I don't know if he did, John, because he was more. Well, the laser was his.
Yeah.
But what that was attached to, I don't know at this stage. I think he'll be one of the first to know after, obviously, the hierarchy, as you said, John. But you're absolutely right. They don't know what's coming. Yeah. The galaxy do not know what's coming at this stage, which is. But
that information that obviously Andor and the Scottish guy possesses.
Yeah.
When shared with a Luthen, with his contacts, we've seen his contacts throughout the galaxy. He's obviously got a plant in the ISB. I think you're right, Stephen. That will send
Cassian
them down
Andor
the
is
rabbit
the
hole.
Sophie Shaw. Is it
Sophie Shaw?
Sophie Shaw of this story. He's the one that has to let people know the truth.
Yep.
He has the proof.
Yep.
That this is what's going on, and that's why I'm looking so much forward to season 2 already. And I know we've got till 2024 before we see this, but I don't mind that because there's a lot to get through. John, this is rewatchability as well, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and watch all this probably in obviously in bulk, just back to back, do it in one weekend, because there is a lot obviously over the space of 3 months that some things we've forgotten about.
Yeah.
But
what
an experience, what a journey.
Well, Stephen, you spoke it incidentally, Rajat. Welcome in, appreciate the comment. It was amazing. You speak of the structure, Stephen, of the show. I thought they did a fantastic job of expanding out in this singular concept of Andor, the man, and turning it into a sort of buff of the Rebel Alliance. His mother, this sort of ingrained desire to fight the Empire, we see that bear fruit at the end. She inspires Ferrix, and Stephen, I says during our reaction, it's almost like a microcosmic look at the galaxy as a whole, Ferrix. That tyranny you're seeing, the downtrodden nature of the people, just incremental ratcheting up of terror, of sort of tyranny by the Empire. That is something that will be reflected across multiple planets, multiple communities in this galaxy. We can't go to every world and see it happening there, but that uprising, the battle we see at the end with Ferrix, is something that will be replicated. That is the start of the Rebel Alliance, the rebellion against the Empire. And I just enjoyed the fact that structurally we got to explore that. Almost a throwaway character for much of this show, for me anyway. I laughed at her at times. Becomes hugely significant at the end, and obviously urging this simple folk to take up arms and fight the Empire. And just the way they structured it, Stephen, I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but I really enjoyed the different sides of this galaxy. The opulence of Coruscant, the sort of aristocracy, the sort of political side with Mon Mothma, ISB plants as her driver, sort of try to dance around, even their own husband, keeping things hush-hush, a secret, speaking to old friends. You've got Luthen as almost a middle ground. He's like a sort of military man in his own right, but he's not getting dirty. He's almost a go-between between these two worlds.
Yeah.
Andor, boots in the ground. The Empire doing their thing as well, bickering all over. What was the name of the guy who got killed? I'm blanking on his name. They let him go into the trap. He became cannon fodder to protect the plant in the ISB. Yeah. Forget his name, but he doesn't go on with Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera doesn't go on with Luthen. They all mistrust each other. They're just bickering. It's a shambles. There is no alliance. They're all different, fractured rebels that can't sit at a fucking table together. We explore that in this show.
It's going to take something to pull them all together, and I think that's where Cassian Andor comes into this, John.
Yeah.
But talking about the structure, you're absolutely right. To deal with all these different elements and different backgrounds and politics and whatever is going on in 12 episodes is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal in the sense that Tony Gilroy's juggling all these characters and all their storylines, intertwining, and also it's important that you get the pacing of that right as well, so it's not all jarring. But the other side of the structure which I liked was how they sort of sectioned off 3 episodes per 3 episodes for different events and different time periods. I think it was over the space of a year or something like that, wasn't it? So they split that up into like 3 months, if you like, each section. And
it's clever.
We were obviously in different planets in that time, different situations as well. And for them to give us the first 3 episodes, which were very slow burn, let's be honest.
That's a minor criticism.
I think they were aware of that though, and they knew they had the story to tell, and they had to tell it this way, which I'm glad they did. But if they had staggered out those 3 episodes over 3 weeks, they would have lost a lot of viewers, I think.
They would have. Stephen, that's I think what's turned a lot of people off.
Yeah.
They've maybe watched the first 2-3 episodes, not really connecting with the story, not connecting with the pacing. It's a totally different kind of Star Wars to what we've experienced before. Star Wars, we were speaking about Indiana Jones the other day. Frenetic, high energy, doesn't drop a moment. You lose a huge, significant character in Obi-Wan, Ben Kenobi, in A New Hope. They move on within 5 minutes, not even that, 2 minutes.
As much
right back into it. This is dialogue heavy.
As much as I liked The Mandalorian, John, it took me a long time. Probably took me 1 season to get used to that format.
Yeah.
Because I'd never seen Star Wars in that format. But here we are.
But even that is almost like Star Wars in the movies, though.
Yeah, it's small scale. It's frenetic, but you're absolutely right. It's still sectioned off as episodic. Yeah, so do I, John. But it did take a bit of getting used to. But here we are. We're 4 years on from that now. We're at Andor, and I just think they've been very brave in this series. They're taking a reliable character. That's not too brave, I suppose. A well-known character in Cassian Andor.
Stephen, you say that, there's a lot of people criticise the choice of anchoring a show around Andor. They say he was a boring, uninteresting character from
I don't see
Rogue
that.
One. I find that astonishing, that remark. For me, the standout alongside Jyn, and obviously Galen, was Cassian. His monologue about his parents, him living this rebellion from a young age, I think 7 he said, 8. That was one of the standout moments for me. The moment where he goes through everything he goes through in that movie, the sort of careless way he's taking out fellow Rebel Alliance members to protect and preserve the rebellion. To go from that to a man sacrificing everything, holding hands at the very end. And now we get to see the poetry from the obviously this show.
Yeah.
He helped build that weapon
John,
system.
Do you know something? I thought about that after watching episode 12 last night with you. You know that way you just start, things go over in your head and you're thinking about things like that. He was one of the ones in Rogue One that didn't believe Jyn when she told him about this super weapon. That's how unaware they were at this point.
Yeah, they did,
and I'm saying, that's how I'm saying earlier on, there wouldn't have been many people who would have known about what they were doing. There might have been rumours or something like that, but nobody really knew what the Empire were doing and what they were building. And Cassian, who's been around it all and obviously helped to construct inadvertently, but I think it just goes to show, the writing, that they thought about this very carefully. They thought about, and they did it with Rogue One as well, with certain characters. They left out Wedge Antilles because he knew, or he didn't know what the Death Star looked like from one line in A New Hope. Wow, look at the size of that thing.
And obviously
they couldn't include him in Rogue One.
The squadron who were on Scarif weren't present at Yavin 4.
Yeah.
So the detail was there, Steve. Yeah. What you're saying there, it's almost conjuring up me contradicting myself from 5 minutes. Both of us, in fact, when we say that perhaps Andor's passing information on about this labour facility, and then that sends him down a sort of rabbit hole to discover the Death Star. But it doesn't, because we've seen with Luthen in this show, he takes information in, he keeps it to himself, he passes it on to relevant people, and it's like a chain of command, and no one below a certain point knows of anything. So just because Andor passes it on, and he, perhaps Luthen, or maybe Mon Mothma discover the Death Star, doesn't necessarily mean Andor's going to know about it at some point in the future. We don't even know how this is bleeding into Rogue One as well, Steve.
No,
it looks pretty fucking close to being finished, the Death Star, so I don't think we're far away.
Exactly, yeah. I
mean, we've seen the epic shot and the sort of promotion of Rogue One where the actual weapons, the laser system actually clicks into place. Slowly goes down into
that
the
might be the trickiest bit for them, I suppose, because they do need Galen Erso for that, don't they? Yeah.
Tricky Galen.
I mean, it's okay building a big ball in space, but if it doesn't have a pew pew, then
Steve, it's the scale of those spider robots.
Yeah.
When you see that there's like 5, 7, 8 men to one of these pieces of sort of equipment, machinery, and then you see the scale of these spider robots or droids working on it, man, they are fucking huge. It shows you the scale. It's just astonishing. But Steve, I've really enjoyed just the way they structured this show, man, the different sides, the different factions, showing us. And Stephen, it kept things fresh as well, because if you were sticking with Andor, as much as I like Diego Luna and I enjoy the Cassian Andor character, I don't think him on his own is enough for 12 episodes, 24 episodes. So given this guys like Luthen, Stellan Skarsgård, he comes in, he immediately ups the fucking acting, calibre of acting.
Yeah.
Because before that, and look, I'm going to apologise to James McArdle, who played Tim Carlo, because he's a good guy. We've looked into his background. He's the same fucking age as me.
Alex Ferns as well.
But specifically James McArdle, I was going right in that guy, but we've now looked into where he comes from. He's from Glasgow. He's a good guy.
I think most people, right, John, that obviously the Tim Carlo character was a very pathetic character and insecure.
But he had to be.
He obviously was very insecure in terms of the relationship between Cassie and Bix, and he didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, and spying on her. I think he actually he shopped Cassian at one point, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he wasn't a very.
But someone
nice
says
guy.
he immediately regretted it. I think he regretted doing it.
Yeah, well, possibly. Yeah.
I think it was perhaps because of the ramifications on his relationship with Bix, and less about what was happening to Andor. But yeah, man, I just went and say that. Yeah. Sorry, Jamesy boy, you're going to see this because you won't. But yeah, I was a bit harsh on you, mate. Look at your background. You're all right, as we like to say here. But Stephen, up in the acting game, Andy Serkis comes in. Different characters.
Didn't even know he was in it.
Didn't know he was in it. It was genuinely until I seen his gait from a distance. I'm like, that's fucking Serkis.
Yep.
I didn't even have to see his face. But when I did, I'm like, fucking yes. Andy's back in Star Wars. This begins to make things right.
3?
He was in 3, yeah. I think so, yeah. And what an impact.
Yeah.
Ending with that.
He had the ground running, John, and what a sort of flip-flop. The character, he was obviously a hard-nosed, try to keep himself on the straight and narrow to get his release, and then total 360s it.
Symbolism of the character as well, though, Stephen. Yeah. He's symbolic of this trust in the Empire.
Yeah.
Even till the end, and when they literally until they find out of the sheer level of deceit, of treachery, of what's going on. Obviously, in the I can't remember what episode it is when they actually obviously start fighting against that facility.
It was episode 10, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was 9 or 10.
Thinking of the actual name of the episode, though I can't remember what the name was. What was the name of it? One Way Out?
One Way Out, yeah.
One Way Out. Up until that point, he trusts the Empire.
John, you talk about One Way Out. You talk about all the sort of titles of every episode. They had like maybe double and treble meanings throughout the storylines as well. And that was certainly one of them, wasn't it? We got two really great monologues. One from...
Well, Steve, we can get into that just now, man. In terms of episodes, what is your standout episode? For me, it is One Way Out because of the brilliance of just the acting across the board. Genevieve O'Reilly acting, I think it's the moment she realises she's going to have to marry her daughter off and get back to this culture she was trying to turn her back on. The fucking iconic, I'm going to call it right now, iconic speech monologue of Luthen Stellan Skarsgård at the end.
Yeah,
just stunning. The reveal of the Insider, there was so much going on in that. I think
collectively, John, that's probably the standout one. But if we're talking about standout moments, it would have to go down to Luthen's flying abilities.
Oh, yeah.
And his obviously his vehicle. I thought that was just amazing. It took us by surprise just how good this guy is.
Mm-hmm.
I know that obviously cerebral, I think the guy's switched on, but he has abilities that are almost Force-like.
Some might say
unnatural.
Unnatural.
Yeah. And it was a fantastic sequence. Now that was a all-out action sequence, which there wasn't many, I would say, in the grand scheme of things in this. You maybe got one every 2 or 3 episodes that lasted maybe.
I think it did a good job of balancing it.
It was more drama driven, John. That's what we came here for, wasn't it?
But good things come to those who wait. I mean, we did get the action, we got
but
it.
I also liked the one that was on Aldani, the actual heist.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That was a great episode.
Yeah.
That was a great, just the sort of...
It's almost like it's different films we're watching though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, just the tone and the pace and the characters are all different.
Well, you mentioned
and that's what it feels like.
Different timelines, different sort of triple episodic stories being told. And it almost is, when you think about it, you break it down, 40 minutes an episode, that's an hour and a half, and 2 hours long. You're knocking on 2 hours, that's a different movie. 3 different movies in a sense. 4 different movies. And they all do explore different timelines, different characters, different worlds. Obviously there's bleed over from Coruscant to Aldani, Ferrix, this facility on Narkina 5. But it's just brilliantly handled. I really enjoyed the pacing. I'm a fan of slow burn. I like the likes of Ari Aster. I like cerebral stuff, dialogue heavy. That's why I'm a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino. And even the likes of Nolan, when you can hear his dialogue and he's not blown out the fucking mix in a theatre. I like that, Stephen. And I like the fact they're catering for a different audience, the more mature Star Wars fan, because for years it's been aimed towards multi-demographic or even the younger side. And I like the fact they're acknowledging guys like myself, like you, people even older,
John, the whole Death Star thing at the very end didn't have to be there. They didn't have to do that at all. That was total fan service. But there's nothing wrong with fan service if it's done right.
Yeah.
And it was such a wow moment, you know.
It was. Stephen, you posed a question that we will probably go on to here. Is there any, and what I'm going to, I've got a little rebuttal for this because I've got something to say about this character that I just thought about, and it kind of ties into what we spoke about with the, I always forget his name, the circus character.
Yeah, there is, yeah. Kino, yeah.
Kino. It's a kind of similar thing, but it's the flip of it. On the Empire side instead of these sort of Rebel Alliance. And we'll get into it. Is there any character or plotline you felt they could remove from this first season and it would ultimately make no impact on the story? You take it out and you flow on, almost like Canto Bite of Andor.
It would have to go down to the Cyril stuff. And no harm to the character or the actor. There was nothing wrong with his acting or anything like that. I just felt that if you remove him from the storyline, then it doesn't really change too much. But I think they've got bigger plans for this character, and I think they've got bigger plans for him and Dedra, sorry.
Do you think they'll end up becoming this strange, twisted sort of romantic thing?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so? Yeah.
I don't.
Because they represent the ambition within the Empire for me. He's
definitely got a fascination with her. There's no doubt about it. He's fascinated with two characters in this whole series, and it's Dedra and Cassie for different reasons, I think.
Stephen, if you think about those two characters, Dedra's almost like the Imperial side of what Andor is for the Rebel Alliance, side, a bit of a maverick, rising figure within both factions, and he's obsessed with both. It's a similar kind of energy. Yeah. For me, though, Stephen, the rebuttal I was going to say, I mean, I agree with you. You could take him out and it would lose nothing. The scenes with the mother,
the breakfast cereal stuff was I was kind of switching off. I was like, I'm not interested.
But what I think they're trying to do with that character, and I may be wrong here, is he's just an ordinary man who is utterly obsessed, completely captured, completely taken on by order and by the Empire, and it's how it can, I don't even know what the word is, I'm looking for a word here, but it can snatch the ordinary man. The ordinary man can be corrupted and drawn to this order, to this sort of tyrannical force. We've seen that.
If that's what it represents, then fair enough.
You mentioned the World War II stuff, Stephen, the sort of heavy themes Gilroy's exploring in this, the connections to the Great Wars. How many stories were there of ordinary people, fucking chicken farmers? I was doing a Cumberbatch here, Pengling, chicken farmers becoming despots. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Heinrich Himmler becomes the SS Gestapo leader. He's an evil little fucker. He oversees the final solution with the likes of Adolf Hitler and people like that. One of the most despicable individuals the world's ever seen. He was an ordinary man, taken on by a charismatic leader, by a sort of cause, corrupt though it was. For me, that's what Cyril's almost representing. Now, I'm not saying he's going to turn into Heinrich fucking Himmler, start sporting tiny little circular glasses and shave his head in at the sides, but I'll have a little pencil moustache. But I think he represents something, and I'm sure it'll tie into the second season. He is tedious in this. He's boring. His speech is a joke. But I have to tell you, Stephen, that aside, his interactions with Sergeant Linus, Alex Ferns and Kyle Soller in this are fucking brilliant. Yeah. Just some brilliant comedic stuff. Brilliant comedic stuff between those two. Stephen, I have to say, Sergeant Linus, I think that's how you say it. At the end, I think he is completely finished with the Empire.
Yeah. He's heavy drinking. I think that speech, the holographic speech, really opened his eyes up. And I said that, John. I said, look, you can see he's doubting his beliefs now and what he's obviously been involved in. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they were very low-level characters, weren't they, in terms of their position in the whole Empire? I mean, they were almost like security guards, weren't they?
That's exactly what they did in the first 3 episodes, 2 episodes, Steve, and they showed you the sort of bureaucracy. I can't even see it, bureaucracy. Drink and a lack of water. The bureaucracy, easy for me to say, of this galaxy at this point, in this particular part of the history of this galaxy, if I can fucking get to what I'm trying to say. There is levels. You've got the ISB, you've got Sheaf with Tarkin, you've got these low, sort of power-hungry little fuckers.
Well, you look at Dedra and the way she was treating Cyril for most of this season.
And she's a nothing character
exactly.
in the grand scheme of things.
You know, and she looks down on him as if he's just a piece of dirt. But they both have something in common.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're for the Empire, they're for those sort of that structure and beliefs. But there is, again, John, you're absolutely right. It was hinted, or it wasn't hinted, it was actually bang on the nose with obviously Tarkin and Ben Mendelsohn character, forget it already.
Krennic, yeah.
You saw that in there, the hierarchy. There was this. It was like I'm going to put my hand right up here. The Emperor
is there.
Tarkin.
Tarkin's below.
Tarkin.
Yeah, he's above Vader.
Krennic's away down here.
Yeah,
he's away down here.
Yes.
That shows you the gap.
And he's away up there compared to a Dedra.
Yeah.
And even a sort of major Partagaz, I think that's how you say it, a Partagaz, if it's a fancy thing. There is a sort of hierarchy within the Empire.
And Cyril, he's just like a parking attendant with a limp.
Yes, yeah.
Can he fucking park that there?
It's
One of the
true.
guys in the NCP car parks, yeah. Unofficial NCP car parks.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's this sort of grappling for meaning. A guy who is lost in this society, you see it when he goes back home to his mother. He's searching for something more, something greater from the mundanity of his life.
He went from being a security guard to a call centre.
He did, yeah.
Chap,
I think that's an important thing they're exploring, though. It really is. It's showing you the mundanity of life. People are wanting a bit of excitement, even if it means becoming evil.
Well, we all used to joke about that, didn't we, watching the Star Wars trilogy?
Yeah.
Where the Stormtroopers go for their lunch on the Death Star. Well, we're seeing that. What happens? We're seeing the mundane stuff. They go to the toilet as well, believe it or not.
They do.
So there you are.
So I think it's important to see that side of the galaxy. This is a different side of Star Wars. It's making it more human, as you said. We're getting away from the wizards and the fucking laser swords, as George would have called it back in the day, the lightsabers. It's a different side of this galaxy. Stephen, it's something I wanted to see explored.
Yeah.
So, and to an extent we did see it. Boots in the ground, more gruffer, visceral side of the galaxy. And that's one of the aspects I've really, really enjoyed about this show. The fact that it was boots in the ground, human, ordinary guys, for good and bad, doing extraordinary things. Stephen, you speak of visceral though, the practical stuff in this show really get away from I believe anyway, away from the, what the fuck's it called again? What's it called again? The technology with the screen that circles the actor. The volume.
Yeah.
The volume.
Sorry, John, yeah.
Get away from the volume. I feel they did. Certainly on Ferrix.
Yeah.
Huge practical set. Immediately makes the world lived in.
As much as I
expands it.
I thought I would hate to live in that place. It was good to look at. It was, especially those sort of sweeping wide shots, and when the camera was sort of back panning away from the sort of street level and giving you a sort of grander scale of the town and stuff like that. And I just thought, how did they do this? Because obviously I think that street, a Bick Street or whatever it's called, is obviously Bick's Road is obviously the sort of practical set, and anything that's behind that's green screen. But it just looked absolutely stunning. It looked so real. And I'm looking down streets going like that. Can I see anyone walking about down there? And you do. The detail in it's fantastic.
And that goes back to what George was doing in Tunisia.
Yeah.
With Mos Eisley.
Yep, that's what is
brilliant big sets, lived in, and it feels tangible. You can touch it. It exists. And as good as the volume technology is, and it's brilliant, and it's good for small sort of usage, transports the actors to a different location. The
aesthetics of this season was fantastic, John. Another thing, we questioned obviously the colour scheme a lot of people were wearing, greens and yellows and browns and stuff like that. You mentioned Mos Eisley there. You go back and watch Mos Eisley, that opening sequence, a lot of people are wearing those colours. So the detail's fantastic. It
represents the ordinary man.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of money.
That's it.
And what it does, Stephen, is it makes the sort of important figures, and I'm not doing down the likes of Bix, but when Luthen comes onto the planet, when the Empire come onto the planet, they're wearing blacks and whites, and they stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Luthen, there's a moment when Cassian picks him out from across the town.
Yep.
At the stairs, he's wearing this black robe. He stands out like a fucking sore thumb. So it's almost, again, everything's thought out really nicely in this show. The way they're picking out your sort of important characters, it's really, really clever for me. I've really enjoyed the show on a technical level, Stephen. I thought the soundtrack, the score was fucking great. They kept going back to that theme, the sort of Andor theme. We hated the intro. We never put it in my watch-alongs. The intro was too fucking long. It was too slow.
Bugbear of mine, yeah.
But the theme was great, and they kept getting back to it. It was sort of building to a crescendo.
You had the previously on Andor, so you get the week sort of recap, and then you got the Lucasfilm intro thing with all the droids and heads and all that kind of thing, and then you got this very slow burn Andor logo coming up. It was too much time for that, you know.
But the score was great.
Yeah, the score was great.
And the main theme is really, really good, and I'm now furiously trying to find who did the actual score.
Yeah.
And I am fucked if I can see it. But I just thought technically it was really, really well shot. The fact it was practical sets, it was practical effects, it really does add something. That's what all Star Wars should be. When you think of The Mandalorian, I know for a fact the first season anyway, the town he's frequenting is a real set. He's actually there, and they just sort of add little flourishes with the volume. That's the way it should be moving forward. Shouldn't be having chase sequences limited to a small
I felt
place.
They did that in Obi-Wan quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it felt very compacted, especially the Vader Obi-Wan first confrontation.
Yeah.
It felt just the camera angles, because obviously they're limited and where they can come in from. And I just felt, as good as it was, you know, the actual look of it looked a bit contained, like they were very claustrophobic, you know.
You look at that composer, Stephen Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk. I fucking loved that movie.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Succession, he's a real top class composer. Actually had 3 cinematographers involved in this movie. Adriano Goldman, he worked on 6. So just out in The Crown, he's worked on that. So just a really high calibre crew behind the obviously the camera. I don't know how they did the actual directing, if it was multiple directors or one director. I don't recall ever seeing that. Was it Gilroy it was directing, or was he just writing?
He was writing. Yeah, Benjamin Karen and Susanna White,
It was a similar sort of split to the actual cinematographer then.
You can see that though, and sort of tonally it's so different per episode. Like I would assume Susanna White's done 3 back-to-back episodes.
Yeah.
And the same with Benjamin Karen.
And obviously Toby Haynes, he's maybe did the first 3 or something, then went back and finished it on Ferrix.
I think that's what it is, John. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But yeah, technically a great fucking show. Really, really, really good. Stephen, cameos, performances. I mean, it's easy just to go to Diego and say Diego's fucking brilliant. But when you've got Stellan Skarsgård and anything, it's got... And look, I love Andy Serkis. I'm one of the biggest sort of fucking advocates of Serkis acting without mocap. I'm not saying he shouldn't ever do mocap. Look at his Caesar performance, his Gollum performance. The guy's the king of mocap. But some of the best performances from this guy I've seen with no mocap. He's a top tier actor. What he does with his facial expressions, some of the things that are happening on that facility, he doesn't have to open his mouth.
Yeah.
He's just conveying it. When he looks down at the water, he doesn't have to say, I can't swim. You can see he's finished.
Yeah, the terror in his eyes, yeah.
But it was just, Stephen, and I'm going to go off on a fucking tangent, that whole moment on Narkina 5 with him, the fact he knew he couldn't swim, he couldn't possibly get out, but he was still selfless enough to get everyone else out. He sacrificed himself.
I think he'll get out, John.
Do you think he'll get out?
Yeah, I think we're going to see him again. I think we're going to see him in season 2. I think he'll bite the bullet in season 2, but I think it's been left open-ended for a reason.
But Skarsgård?
Probably Skarsgård for me, John.
But Genevieve O'Reilly as well.
Genevieve O'Reilly was phenomenal, and I knew she would be, because we'd seen her obviously in Rogue One, and obviously deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith. John, she was also the wife in episodes, you know, the Matt LeBlanc, Stephen Mangan series. She was the wife, the blind wife in it. And she was phenomenal in that, very funny.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, her scenes were emotionally intense at times. Gave you a good idea, obviously, the situation of living in Coruscant under these times as well. In these times, you can't trust anyone. No. Even her driver's a spy, and she knew that. I loved that in the last episode where she asked him to switch his intercom off so she wouldn't hear the conversation. Knowing fine well he'd keep it on, and passing all the blame to her husband on his gambling for those big massive holes in their accounts. And also they bought it, hook, line and sinker. Well, she planted the seeds, yeah.
That explains the sort of gaps in the finances. So that's that problem solved, which made me wonder why they did choose to go through with the marriage. I think it was purely the fact the daughter,
she wanted it.
She bought into it. She actually wanted it.
Traditionalist, yeah.
So,
but for me, John, I think Stellan Skarsgård as well. Just every scene he was in was phenomenal, and he was in my favourite sequence as well. The sort of Starfighter moment as well.
Yeah, Stephen, look, for me, all the great moments involve him.
Yeah, they do.
Sort of dialogue heavy, brilliant moments. It's him.
He's the one that connects all the characters as well. Yeah. You know, it's not Cassian Andor.
He's almost like Varys from Game of Thrones. He's got fucking eyes everywhere. He's got a web of sort of...
And I loved those scenes in the shop where he would have to pretend to be happy, have the smile, would have the wig on.
God, that was
you know, and when he turned his back, you know, from the driver, he would talk the normal way, serious
It's the
way.
fact that we're having really in-depth, serious conversations, disagreeing.
Yeah, and smiling.
Him and Mon Mothma, he's like laughing.
Yeah.
Well, and then he's obviously getting back into this conversation. Just really, really good. I love that shit.
John,
we spoke about it, how much we loved Arrow in the early seasons.
Yeah.
And Batman as a concept, this masquerading as something different to the larger world. Just conveying this different personality.
John is an actor
on steroids here.
As an actor, Stellan Skarsgård, even before he did Mamma Mia. And when he did Mamma Mia, I was like, what is he doing? Well, he was great in it, don't get me wrong. It's not one of my favourite films, but he was really good in it. When he was casting this, I went, oh, they know what they're doing here. They know what they're doing getting him in. But
I'm sure he was in some fucking obscure BBC TV show, and that was the first thing I seen him in. Or one of the things
could have been.
I go to.
Yeah.
I may be talking shite there. It may be something else, but you look at his career, it's just fucking speaks for itself. Top class actor. Top class, and he's just his brethren in general, his family are fucking unbelievable.
There seem to be levels though, John, in terms of acting, and you know, you could pick out the top three would be probably Diego Luna, Stellan Skarsgård, and Genevieve O'Reilly, and then maybe below that, Circus, and then you've obviously got the likes of the
Fiona Shaw, Stephen. I would put her in there. I knew her from Aunt. Can't remember her name from Harry Potter. From Harry Potter
and Denise Gough as well. You know, they just had levels, and then you get down to the. I don't want to do them a disservice, but these Cockneys that were appearing, and Scottish people that were appearing in the first few episodes that were really winding me up. Forrest Whitaker, he's up the top as well.
Forrest Whitaker's up the top as well. Some of the interactions between Saw Gerrera and Luthen, absolutely phenomenal.
I love the paranoia in this character because we got hints of it in Rogue One. Well, I think they actually said how paranoid he was. I think it might have been Genevieve O'Reilly's character that said that, but we saw it really.
He's got reason to be paranoid.
Well, that's true, yeah.
When Luthen's got a fucking plant in the ISP, he's like, how do I know you've not got one here? See that scene, Stephen? Well, Luthen turns it on that annoying fucker of a lieutenant of his. You brought it up, he actually was a dick in Rogue One as well. The fact he turns it like that and says, it's him. And just the way that creates panic.
And then you've got the likes of Alex Ferns, James McArdle's, the what's it called? Even Ibn Mos Backrack.
He was the sort of Chris Martin guy that killed.
He was a strange accent as
well.
Tell
you what, Stephen, you speak about episodes, standout episodes. I really did love the one building up to the Aldani heist.
Yeah,
it was very conversational. It was based on this group of rebels, all deeply mistrustful of each other.
The sweeping shot, it was like the Fellowship of the Ring.
Stephen, someone mentioned it in the comments, just how they scaled up the sort of the tension, the villainry of the Empire in those early episodes. Just a single TIE fighter had you cowering. It was almost like the Lord of the Rings. You mentioned that, Stephen, where they were scared of fucking crows, and then at the end they're taking on Sauron and thousands of orcs and Uruk-hai. It was almost like that in a TV show. You go from a single TIE fighter to taking on an entire fucking battalion of Imperial forces, culminating in the Death Star at the end. How the fuck do you go from a TIE fighter to the Death Star? I don't know, but they did it, and they did it well.
Yeah, definitely,
But yeah, for me, Skarsgård's the man. I love Diego as well, though. I just love this guy. I think he's a fucking brilliant actor. Just a little interaction at the end between him and Luthen. A little smile when he says, "I'll take me in." Someone mentioned that, maybe Ronnie Johnson. That was a brilliant little moment.
It was, yeah.
You speak about acting with your face. You don't have to open your mouth. Just brilliant. And just the character of Luthen, Stephen, just you feel like you've been with this guy for 30 years.
But we don't know enough.
Which is
amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's the mystery.
Yeah.
Surrounding this. That will spawn novels, maybe even another fucking spin-off show looking into his back history. He's just a brilliant character.
I think he's been part of something, some kind of group at some point. Whatever it is he does, whether it's Force users or whatever.
Vel Saber as well, Steve.
I don't think Luthen is a Jedi. I think perhaps he is a Force user in some capacity.
I'm convinced that there's something going on with that character.
And I think we'll find out about it.
I think
it might be like a Knights of Ren or something like that, but obviously a light side version of that or something. I don't know.
It's the way he wears his hood.
Yeah.
It's his ability to fly. He's just quick of thought, sharp of reflex. I don't know, there's something wrong with that character for me. Stephen Faye Marcy as well, Felsafa. I thought she was a really interesting character. First time you see her, she's quite not rambunctious. I don't know why that word came into my head, but quite nippy. That may be the right word. I'd have to search it up, and I will.
A nippy sweetie.
She was a nippy sweetie. She's quite rough and ready. Cleans up. Boom, totally different character. Scrubs up well.
Well, Mon Mothma said that.
Directly linked to
Go
Mon
away
Mothma.
And play a spoiled little rich girl, wasn't it? Obviously,
really
that's
interesting character,
yeah.
Stephen. She's sort of the go-between between Luthen and Mon Mothma in a sense, but
and
she
they're
isn't.
related, aren't they?
I think they're maybe
sisters.
I don't know if they're sisters.
Did you say your auntie? I can't remember.
Could be.
I can't remember.
Yeah. There is a familial bond there. But I thought she was really good. And also an important character in terms of sort of diversity, what they're doing with LGBT stuff in this, if that's what you say.
We touched on it last night, John.
Openly gay characters in Star Wars. Now, we've all spoke about that, Stephen, and we'll be honest and say when there was talk of the likes of Luke Skywalker being retconned to be gay, well, there's no need for that, because you can, and I think it was actually Mark Hamill said it himself, a character can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't have to have it firmed up in
you
the
don't
writing.
have to overemphasise it. If something's normal, you don't overemphasise something normal.
And if it's part of the story and it's fundamental to the character, then absolutely make it so. Obviously what J.K. did with Dumbledore and Harry Potter, she made him a gay character, and then we then explore that in potentially Fantastic Beasts, his relations with Gellert Grindelwald. That's fine. And it's fine with this character. I thought it was really well handled. We spoke about that in the last sort of watch along.
I mean, Star Wars have been there before, and obviously the Rise of Skywalker, John, but it was an on the nose moment. It lasted maybe about 2 seconds at the very end, but it was there, and it was a good thing to do, because it was, let's put that in there and test the water with the audience, because let's be honest, John, Star Wars fans at times can be absolute dicks.
They can.
When they want to be. They're so fickle, and they're so set in their ways, and they don't like things changing and all that. We saw the backlash with the Lord of the Rings series, John, which was fucking ridiculous. A lot of these fucking basement dwellers. And Star Wars fans, there is an element like that as well.
It's fucking Mike.
So
I'm gonna have to
I was glad they did it in The Rise of Skywalker. I really was. I thought it was just a nice nod to say, look, these two characters are gay, and that's it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what you think. This is the galaxy we live in. Not much different to the world we live in. So deal with it.
Yeah.
Each to their own.
And Stephen will get to the point where this will just happen and no one will even think about it.
Yeah.
It blows my mind, but not there yet.
But you have to make these moves, John. They have to.
They do.
They have to do it for it to become. It's terrible to say, accepting.
Yeah.
It should be accepting anyway, but you're dealing with different people, your different beliefs and all this carry on.
But I thought Faye Marcy and I thought Virada Setu, the Cinta character and the Vel character, really interesting again to see different side to the Empire and exploring that sort of. Didn't really go into it in great depth, but it was there and it was more explored than we've seen before. The sort of gay romantic relationship we had there. That's an important moment, and fair props to the likes of Gilroy for putting it in there. Stephen, final couple of things I'd say. There's also a couple of points. Just Ferrix in general. We've often hated this place. It was a love-hate relationship. Started off really bored with it. Lots of Scottish actors, Cockney actors. It's like, just get off this fucking planet. We've went away to Coruscant. We've come back. We've went to Aldani. We've went to Narkina 5. We've ultimately went back to Ferrix, I think, 3-4 times. Sometimes with Andor, sometimes not with Andor.
Yeah.
It culminates in Ferrix. And Stephen, in the end, I have to say, I find myself agreeing with some of the comments that came in prior to the finale, and that I actually now accept Ferrix as a planet. As I said before, without going over old ground, it's almost like it's like the emotional linchpin of this show, Ferrix. Andor, his mother, what it represents, his father that he lost as well, obviously stepfather, stepmother, because it's not actually his mother or father, but it is, because that's what he grew up with. Just what it represents for this uprising.
Yeah.
And the speech from the Marva character, the look on Luthen's face when he's standing and listening to this dead woman fucking standing up against the might of the Empire, speaking about all of the ills that they are imposing on the galaxy. And you see a little knowing smile. He's like, fuck me, this is happening.
Yeah.
I don't even have to do anything. This is actually happening.
Yep.
Couldn't believe it. And that's Ferrix. So fair play, man. They actually turned me round to Ferrix as well. I thought that was extraordinary. on the writers.
That, John, obviously the connection there with obviously the Marva character, which you changed your mind about as well, and also the droid, Cassian.
Cassian Andor. Yes, I was howling editing that last night. I put that droid on steroids. He never at any point says Cassian Andor. He just says Cassian Andor. Never has an issue with Andor, but I'm going Cassian Andor, and it's almost like it's echoing. It's fucking unreal. I'm an amazing stutterer who's never stuttered in his life.
There is an emotional sort of connection with that droid, though, as you go through it.
It's the family unit.
It cares.
It's almost like a dog.
I know it's programmed, but it cares for Marva.
But we've seen with R2, Stephen.
That's it. Yeah,
to an extent that they can actually develop.
Not BB-8 though. He couldn't give a shit. He was like a cat. He just looks after himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Thumbs up with the lighter.
R2 is a Labrador.
Yeah,
I maintain that all day long. Smart as hell, well up for it, and loves his family. The Skywalkers, that is. Not Rey, because she's not a Skywalker. She's a fucking Palpatine. Fuck off. That's not how names work. Get to fuck in the bin. And as we speak about in the bin and speak about the good things that Disney have done, that takes us on to the end point before we actually rate this, Stephen.
Yes.
Just the end game of Andor. It ends in Andor. It does end in Andor.
Yeah.
It doesn't end on fucking Jakku.
The forest moon of Andor.
Yes, it ends on the forest moon of Andor. That's where it ends. After that, it's fan fiction. I accept Rogue One though, because it's part of this timeline. Stephen, how will this ultimately shape the experience of Rogue One going forward? We've only got an insight. We're only halfway into this story of Andor, but it's already demonstrably changed.
John, if they left it now, I'd be very happy. I would be like, well, this goes right into Rogue One very organically, and I couldn't be happier about that. I know more about the Cassian Andor character. We get enough from the Jyn Erso character anyway throughout the film, because it's all about her journey as well, and her father, her relationship with her father. And I also saw Cassian Andor in Rogue One as the Han Solo of that film. He's the sort of a lot of fans' favourite, a cult favourite, if you like. We don't know enough about him, but that's good. He's mysterious. We know enough about him, why he's fighting in the rebellion, why he's joined the Alliance. But this series just adds so much weight and depth to the character, his background. Not in the same way that they did with the Solo film, that gave us an unnecessary background to a character we didn't really want to know too much about. Sometimes less is more. Certainly with the Han Solo character, that's the case. With Cassian Andor, it's different because it's about changing times. It's a period that's changing. It's in between that period of the Empire's rise and the Rebellion's rise as well. You know, in that time period of the 18 years it is between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. The
building to the Galactic Civil War.
Yeah, and it's just placing an interesting character in a very interesting time.
Yeah.
And I think they've done it really well, and I can look at Rogue One now in a different light,
and
in a better light, if that's possible, because I love the film anyway.
Ultimately, you've got, and I always blanking the actor's name. He was in Ashes to Ashes.
John, I think he's going to appear. It
would be good if he appeared, but you really only. I mean, there's multiple moments with Cassian in Rogue One where you see the sort of viciousness. He's just straight to the point. He does what has
ruthless,
to be done. Completely ruthless character.
Saw it in the last episode. They shot that guy cold.
They did.
Blood. Yeah.
But this adds a level to it. It shows you why he's ruthless, because he has to be. You see his life experiences. He's learnt the hard way not to trust anyone. He's always been, even as a young kid, he's been quite independent. You see that, and Stephen, we never really mentioned that, the flashbacks. That was actually a low point for me. Every time the flashbacks on his home planet, Daniel Mays, that was one of the things I didn't really like, the flashback. I understand it brought the Marva character in and took us to Ferrix and gave him this sort of upbringing, but I could take and leave the sort of flashbacks. That's one thing. Going back to that question that you posed, if there's one thing you could take out that wouldn't change the show, the whole flashback stuff on his home world.
Show that he's an orphan, really. You know, I know that obviously it's his stepmum and he obviously his stepfather. Cleet.
Keith. Clem.
I'm thinking Clem. I think Cleet Lars.
It's Clem, isn't it? Because he took his father's name on.
I'm thinking about Cleet Lass
Clem
from episode 2. Yeah, I mean, it shows that he's not got a place in the galaxy, John. He's been. What happened to his planet? Was it destroyed?
Fucking wiped out, I think, by the
Empire.
I
mean, he is an orphan. He's an orphan child that's been sort of picked up and put down somewhere else. I think that's all I got from it, to be honest with you.
But it went on too long for me.
I think it lingered on too far.
Yeah. They ripped the arse out of it, as we like to say. But Stephen, for me, it shows you, obviously it builds into Rogue One, the levels to this character. It adds so much, as you said, without repeating fucking verbatim everything you says. Complexity. Stephen, you can make or break movies, you can change things for good and bad.
Well, that's it,
by adding different spin-offs.
There is a risk there, yeah.
There is a risk. Yeah. But for me, Rogue One added something to the original trilogy. You get to see why Vader's so angry, why he's going after Leia, because you get to see the moment just before. There's an urgency. Yeah. You understand why he's not just some rabid guy on speed or designer drug ecstasy, just chasing down this sort of ambassador or fucking regal figure in Leia.
Yeah.
He's been wronged. They have seriously fucked him off, and you get to see that in Rogue One, and it adds so much complexity to the whole story of the Death Star, the rebel side. It's brilliant. It's almost going Inception, another level deep with Andor. So I think it's already changed Rogue One for me. You spoke about it. You're going to go back and watch Rogue One. I'm always watching scenes from Rogue One.
Yeah, it's
by far my favourite Star Wars movie from Disney. For me, Mads Mikkelsen's acting and the sort of reunion with Jyn, Galen Jyn, that is the best bit of acting in all of Star Wars. I don't give a fuck. Come at me, bitches. The original trilogy, I don't care. That's the best acting we've seen in Star Wars. Fucking phenomenal.
His monologue was fantastic. It's the hologram scene you're talking about, John. Yeah,
even the moment when he sees Jyn on the sort of landing pad.
What's her name?
Felicity Jones.
Her reacting to that is some of the best acting I've ever seen.
She's
not an Academy Award winner.
She is an Academy Award winner, and Mads should be if he isn't. But it's the whole construct of that scene, the Death Star being fired for the first time, the shockwaves. We were speaking about it when we went to the theatre. What a fucking moment.
Yep.
It's just an incredible scene, one of the great scenes of Star Wars, and that's down to what the likes of Gareth Edwards and Tony Gilroy did. I don't know who takes credit for that, but whoever it is, take a fucking bow.
Yeah.
But Stephen, getting on to the end of this review now, sort of ratings. We've not got any fucking animations or nothing. It's just going to be rough and ready.
It's going to be
blah. Shall we get right into it? We don't have to give a rationale. I'm giving this a fucking... You know what? I'm going to give it... 9.5 out of 10 for me. Wow. 9.5.
Yeah.
I can't give it a 10. It's not perfect. But I loved it that much. I loved the dialogue, just the pacing, the characters, the cameos, everything, what it's doing and adding complexity to this world, showing us a different side to the world. It's close to perfect as you're going to get.
Ever since, obviously, Revenge of the Sith wrapped up things back in 2005, George Lucas always spoke about the next sort of plans and projects he had in place for Star Wars for the fans, and it was always live action. This is the thing I've been waiting for since 2005. This sort of gritty underbelly of this galaxy that we all know and love, and having fleshed out characters, well developed and well written, in a time period that always fascinates me and replicates obviously a time period in our own lives that fascinates me as well, in World War II. When you do that and you can replicate a lot of that into a galaxy far, far away and really connect with the characters, and it still feels organic, getting into what you already know and love from the original trilogy, which it's always been in my lifetime from 1977 when I was 1 right through to 1983. Since those days 17 years ago when he was talking about live action and it never came to anything, I dreamed of days like this, and I'm probably being a bit melodramatic in that, but I think if you're at a certain age group, John's age group, my age group, this is the kind of things that we live for now in terms of great high quality television. For me, this is a 10 out of 10, John.
Yeah, it's 10. I can see why. Yeah, I can. I'm just being nitpicky and saying that it's not quite perfect. For me, it has to be utter perfection, but it's fucking close. And Steve, I agree with him. You said sort of that criminal underground TV show, the treatments he had, 100 scripts wrote.
Yeah.
I'd have loved to have seen that and exploring the sort of the
maybe
huts,
one day they'll do it.
the fets and everything, man. I'd love to have seen that.
Maybe once they've got a new president in place.
Yeah, but we could get into that
maybe
as
it'll
well.
be George.
Could you imagine? Fuck, I don't know if I'd like that.
I'm back. Hello, boys. That's another thing, isn't it? That's a different franchise.
Well, I mean, Steve, look, I think there's good times for Star Wars. I really do. I think this is the start of something special. I've really enjoyed The Mandalorian. I'm looking forward to the Ahsoka Tano show as well.
Can't wait for that, John.
I think Ronnie Jordan again was in the comments saying we just need to hope that Mando season 4 and also Ahsoka Tano can tide us over. Rosario Dawson's a brilliant actor. That character's Dave Filoni's sort of fucking baby, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
You combine that with Grand Admiral Thrawn coming in. If they can get the casting right and he's in that show, she's hunting him down. Fuck me, Stephen, it's going to be special.
Christian Bale.
Yeah.
I'd
love to see a Bale, a Richard E. If Richard E. Grant's been in there, he can't come back. Oh, it's different. There's so many potential actors that can come in. Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
If they can get that calibre of actor in to portray Thrawn, fucking hell, it's going to be special. If it's the same calibre, it doesn't have to be like this, but the writing and the quality, if it's on that level, it's going to be special. It has to be. We've seen what that character can do in multiple mediums.
Yep.
So I think the future's bright for Star Wars. And look, Kathleen, not a biggest fan in terms of Star Wars output, but I think if we can get a Filoni or a Favreau or even a Gilroy in to oversee it, fucking hell, man, it's going to be special 10, 15, 20 years of Star Wars content. With Iger back as well.
Yeah.
Knows what he's doing.
Igor. He said it was Igor.
Well, they were wrong then, weren't they? I've got the same condition as him. I've got Graves' disease. I can fucking see it. My eye was popping out my head. It still kind of is, to be fair. It's not what it was before, but it's a bit better. But when that's going to round it up, we got 3 girls chatting U City. That's not even English. And we'll come to the end anyway, so I'm not even going to bother blocking it. What is your thoughts on Andor? What rating would you give it? What was your standout episode, standout characters? What did you think, the structure, the pacing, everything about this show? You can share your thoughts down below. If you have anything to say down below in the comment section is the place to put it. You can also like the video, discuss your review as well. You can like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyeballs on YouTube, and do the same over on Twitch. Follow button, notifications button over there to see us doing our thing live over there as well. Regardless of what you do though, thank you for fucking watching us through the whole watch along. If you've come in and watched the review, thank you for watching us on this as well. All that leaves us to say is until the next time, me and Steve are done. Bye bye.